Hi everyone, this is Waiter speaking, and today I want to talk to you about Waiterverse, the game I've been making for the last year and change, on and off. Despite what the name says, it's not the game about me, it's just what I call the game. It's a 2D open world action RPG with, tons of characters, world building, lore, all that. None of which I'll talk about today because I want to save all that for when the actual game comes out and let you explore all that. Today I want to focus on just the gameplay systems and what you'll be able to experience in the demo that's coming out in 1 or 2 months. So I guess a good place to start is to explain the body system of the game. So in this game you can swap out your body parts, and the body parts that you can swap out are called your grafts. In particular, you can swap out both of your arms, your legs, your vitals, and your guts. I'll go over each of these right after I say some more stuff about grafts in general. Health is also split up across your grafts, so when you get hit, you either get hit in one of your arms, your legs, or the rest of your body, in which case the damage goes towards the vitals. And your guts are kind of safe and can't really take damage as such. When your vitals HP hits 0, you die, but if the HP of your arms or legs reaches 0, they just become busted, which is a status effect that means you can't use them anymore, whatever that means for the specific graft. When this happens, you also can't heal them using regular means. You have to either find a special item or find a doctor or something like that. One last thing, there are 3 categories of grafts. The first being androgen, meaning human cells. Second being xenogen, meaning non-human cells, though still organic. And the third one being synthetic, so completely inorganic materials, polymers, metals, whatever it be. These categories don't have gameplay implications for now, but they definitely will, because I do want the category of graft to matter when choosing which one to use. Okay, I'm gonna do the rest of this off the dome, because I can't be fucked to do all the editing. Let me pull up my notes. Okay. So let's start with the legs. The legs handle everything movement related. So the first thing is obviously walking. You have your base speed stat. It's just called speed, which is what you're seeing right now. It's the max speed that you can reach while just walking. You'll notice that you don't immediately come to a full stop and you don't reach max speed immediately either. These are acceleration and deceleration, which are both stats. So different legs take different times to reach their top speeds, and they also take different times to come to a full stop. Now, you can also crawl, which is this. You can like either crouch or crawl. How much slower your crawl is than your walk depends on the C speed mod stat, which can also differ per legs. And one more thing is that when you're crouching, I'll show you. Your crouch increases your accuracy, so as you can see right here, the crosshair changes size considerably when I crouch. Next, let me talk about dashing and sprinting. So when you hit shift in this game, you dash and then you go into a sprint. Not all legs have a dash, and if that's the case, you will just start sprinting and no dash. But if they have a dash, then there are some stats to keep in mind. One of them is called D-stam, which is the stamina cost of the dash. So as you can see, when I dash, a chunk of stamina goes away. That can vary. As well as dash speed, so how fast your dash is and how far it goes also varies. Also, some legs have Omni Dash, which is when you can dash in all directions, but I haven't implemented that yet, so you can only dash left and right. One more thing to keep in mind when moving is that your velocity doesn't update when you're in the air. So as you can see, when I dash and I jump immediately after, that max speed that would usually decrease doesn't actually decrease because I'm in the air. So if I chain together a bunch of dashes and jumps, I can actually go way faster, given that my legs provide a somewhat fast dash. You also gotta be careful about how much stamina you're using. And considering the sprint, same thing, sprint speed varies and sprint stamina cost varies as well. Now let's talk about jumps. So I can jump in this game. Sometimes you can just tap jump, and other legs have a charge jump, which is when you hold space and you can actually jump higher the longer you hold it. You can also see that I'm jumping twice. So the number of jumps you have will also vary. Sometimes it's 1 or 2. Some might even have 0. I'll look into how they'll be balanced. And some will also have like a hold jump in the air, which is like a little jet or something. So you'll have a lot of options when it comes to vertical movement. You also see that when I jump and I land, I'm in this little like landing state. That's called fall reset, which means you will be slower while recovering from falling, and your subsequent jump will also be shorter. So if I like do this, and I try immediately jumping, you see how it's like lower than it should be because I just, fell. I'm still recovering from that jump. This stat is called fall reset, and it also varies per legs. So you'll have some legs that are better at recovering from falling, which means you'll be able to be more mobile. Whereas with other legs, you're going to have to be more mindful of when you jump and where you fall. Another thing that isn't implemented yet is fall comp, which is fall damage compensation. Since fall damage isn't a thing yet, I can't really show you this, but different legs are going to have different fall damage multipliers. So you'll be able to fall shorter or longer based on the legs you have equipped. And the last thing I haven't talked about is stability, which concerns knockback. So because knockback isn't a thing yet, I can't really show you this either, but basically the more stable your legs are, the more knockback and CC you're going to be able to take without, flinching much or being knocked around as much. And this whole leg system gives you a sort of implied taxonomy to legs. Whether you want to prioritize really long sprints or tons of mid-air dashes with fall compensation, all that, mobility, or you just want to walk everywhere but be unstoppable in your marches. It really is up to you, and you don't really have like just those 3 categories. There are a bunch more that kind of arise from the system. Okay, next let's talk about the arms. But before that, I need to explain the weapons a little bit. Weapons I usually refer to as gear, not really for any particular reason, just settled on that, I don't know. Basically, every gear in the game, whether ranged or melee, has 2 core stats. One of them being weight, how heavy the gear is, and the other one being RDEX, which means required dexterity, and it basically tells you how complicated is the gear to use. In tandem with these two, there are 2 central arm stats called strength and dexterity. And the way it works is that in order to wield a weapon of a certain stat, you need to have a matching stat on your arm that is at least that number. So for example, let's say I have a gun with weight 10. I need an arm to be at least strength 10 to be able to use it sensibly and not suffer consequences. Also, as you can see, I'm two-handing this weapon, which is not just cosmetic. This means that the stats of your arms get added together. So for example, let's say my arms are both strength 6, and this gun is, I don't know, weight 12. Since 6 plus 6 equals 12, I will be able to use this sensibly. Now you might be asking, what does insensibly using a gun look like? Well, you can see right here, if I equip 2 AKs, for example, that's like an extreme example, I walk way slower, even though this animation's a little screwed up. But this would be an example of a drawback that I suffer. However, you don't only get drawbacks. If you use a gear that has either less weight or RDEX than your arms, you can actually have bonuses as well. If I'm using a gun, for example, that is less heavy than my strength, I actually get less recoil. This entire system is managed by 2 hidden status effects called Strength and Dex Enk. The Enk here stands for encumberment. The way that both of these are calculated is you take the arm stat and you divide it by the gear stat. And then you get a certain value. So for example, let's say my arms both have a combined value of strength 10, and this gun has weight 20. The strength value would be 0.5, like right here, or actually here it's 0.6. And that means that my speed gets multiplied by 0.5, and I walk 50% slower. There's a whole list of stats that get modified by the 2 status effects. I'll put up a table right here and also show you whether it's just a negative or a positive and a negative, because it does vary. Alright, let's talk about gear for a second. So in this game there are melee and ranged weapons. I'll just start with melee. So one thing I definitely want to avoid is melee weapons having set damage numbers, because that's just not intuitive or realistic to me. You know, in real life, like, swords don't do a certain amount of damage. They're either heavy or sharp. And that's what I want to do. Like, in tandem with the weight and ardex system, I want every melee weapon to have a sharpness to it, which you can think of as a slider between 0 and 100%, where the damage that the weapon does is split up into blunt and sharp damage. So it can either, you know, be fully sharp like a sword, or fully blunt like a bat or something, or it can be a mix like an axe that is, you know, while it is sharp, it also is pretty heavy and it does blunt damage as well. And the reason this matters is that different enemies will take different amounts of blunt and sharp damage based on their bodies as well as the armor that they have. So whether it's, you know, padded, chainmail, or plated, it will affect how much damage they take from different sources. When it comes to the precision of firearms, there are 2 core stats. One is accuracy, which is the base spread you see right here, and the other one is recoil, which is, for one, the amount of extra spread you get per shot, as well as how much the actual cursor goes up. So you see right here how my cursor moved. That also varies based on your recoil. 2 more things considering accuracy. When you move around, your gun is less accurate than when you're standing still or crouching. You can see right here, my cursor spread changes considerably when I run. Moving your mouse also affects your accuracy. So as you can see right here, the faster I move my mouse, the longer it takes for my accuracy to return to its base value. Both of these systems are influenced by weight, so lighter guns like pistols or SMGs will be a lot easier to move around with as well as aim around with. Concerning ammo and reloading, for starters you have like your shotgun type guns that you reload shell by shell, so a couple shots off and then you know, reload shell by shell, you know, no magazines needed. But when it comes to guns with magazines, let's load this one. The way it works is, you know, you fire a couple and then when you reload, your current mag gets put back in your inventory. You don't drop it on the ground, and there's also no like magic reloading of magazines. And also the currently chambered round also stays in the chamber, so that's why it says 6 out of 5, because I have 1 in the chamber plus 5 in the magazine. You'll be able to find loose rounds in the game, and to load empty magazines, you're going to do that in the menu. So you're going to just right click and then, you know, load and unload. I don't have it implemented yet, but that's how it's going to work. There's also going to be a reload all button, and it's not going to take super long like in Tarkov or something, because I think that's just not very fun, like to wait for a minute for all your mags to reload back. It's just going to be, you know, quick. It's not going to be instant, but not, you know, eternal either. The last thing I guess is consumables. Those are these that you can see here. These are just like some placeholders. There's no like use right now. It's just the back end like systems that are in place. So for example, like I can cook a grenade and throw it, but it doesn't do anything. I have a little noise box that just plays a sound and then consumes itself. But you know, you'll be able to have like grenades and use items that can heal you or give you any like status effects or whatever. That about wraps up the gameplay showcase, but I still have to talk about some things that aren't implemented yet but are going to be in the final game. So in the body section, you may have asked yourself what keeps you from just equipping the best arms and best legs all the time. Well, you have a thing called a support system, which is basically your spine and nerves. This dictates what level of grafts you can equip. Every graft has a rating that depends on the stats, and your support system also has a rating. And ideally, the sum of rating of all your grafts should not exceed the rating of your support system, because then bad things happen. I'll get to that in a second though. Now, because the rating system is cumulative, you can also just remove your legs and your arm and just have one super arm if that's your playstyle, you'll just have to play in a wheelchair. And yes, wheelchairs will be a thing eventually. Now you might be asking, what if I have a weak support system but I still want to rock some strong grafts? Well, a lesser game dev would just say, well, you can't use them. But you're in the presence of professionals, so instead what I do is, I let you use grafts that you're not ready for. But be careful. I mean, if you equip a 2-ton arm and you're nothing but skin and bones, what do you think is going to happen the first time you swing that thing around? It's going to burst off, come off flying, and take half your ribcage with it. This is called graft burst, and this is really, really bad. You really want to avoid this. This is about as close to a death sentence as it gets. Please be careful when choosing what grafts to use, but I won't stop you if you want to overextend. The other thing I haven't talked about is mania, which is kind of like the game's magic or mana or spell system. So there's a whole power system of psychoblasting each other with different ailments and effects that I haven't mentioned it at all because none of it is implemented and I don't want to talk about it ahead of time. It's going to be crazy though, so just stay tuned. Like I said, the first playable demo should be out in a month or two. It'll be called Waderverse, and it'll just be like a little time trial course that you could rush through and try out all the weapons and grafts that you want. If you want to stay up to date concerning the development of this game, head over to my website waiterverse.com. There you can find all my links. I will try to upload weekly devlogs on YouTube and if they're short enough on Instagram and Twitter. And I'll be uploading snippets of the soundtrack to SoundCloud, which is also on my website. Some of which you've actually heard already throughout this video. But anyways, thank you for watching and I'll see you, I guess.